But obviously, we're going to get started by going back to this past Friday night. Here we go. This is our play of the week.
And they deserve that, after going through all they've been through, coaching change, COVID.
He medals, and we get third place in that tournament 2 days later.
As we played together, yeah.
The Rattlers punted the Hornets down 16-13.
The Marble Falls tournament was instrumental for these girls. They were able to get up and down the court.
I'm extremely proud of them, and I love that they've embraced me.
Well, welcome into Rattler Up with Coach Walsh, live from the San Marcos High School Rattler broadcast studio. This is where you've got to be every Monday night to catch all the information you want about Rattler athletics. I'm your host, CJ Odam, and with me as always, San Marcos CISD Athletic Director and Head Football Coach, Coach John Walsh. Coach, welcome back in. It seems like we just wrapped up summer and we are about to hit October. How did this happen?
Moved fast. It moved fast.
It is a flight. And so we have lots to cover this week on Rattler Up. We're going to go back and look at this past week's matchup against Laredo Alexander. Of course, we're going to look ahead and preview this Friday night's game as we make the long trek out to Eagle Pass to take on the Eagles. And joining us live in studio, some players from the girls volleyball team and their head coach, Megan Alette. Coach, football and volleyball both gearing up for district play very, very soon. This is an exciting time in the fall, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Volleyball, we're 1 week away from starting district play, and volleyball starts Friday.
Mm-hmm. Now, we know that before we look back at this last year, we want to talk about a couple of things that just took place and set us up. We know that homecoming was part of the festivities this past Friday night. So before we talk game time, what do you feel? You've done this for a long time in a variety of areas. What makes homecoming special for Texas high school football and just that part of that Friday Night Lights tradition?
Well, I just think the crowd, for one, no matter where you're at in the state of Texas, if it's homecoming, the town comes out. And if you looked at Rattler Stadium last night about the third quarter, it was corner to corner full.
It was great.
You get people, you get classes. I get to hear in my office the classes that are coming back to celebrate their homecoming, and we had several classes in, and just the crowd was, it made the Friday night experience that much more special on a homecoming night.
And the players can feel that, right, on the stadium. And I think it's really neat, especially for us, for a lot of, most people know this. I mean, there may be people newer to the area, but that stadium, there's not yet really many reunion classes that know that stadium.
Right, no doubt.
We're talking reunion classes that are pretty used to the Bobcat Stadium way of doing it, and coming in and seeing Rattler Stadium, Toyota Rattler Stadium, seeing what we've been able to develop, what we've been able to grow. Do you hear comments from alumni?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I don't hear, what I hear is Nan on speakerphone, and when they call for tickets, they'll ask those questions. Is there going to be room for us? How much does the stadium seat? So I can imagine when they show up and actually see it, it's pretty all.
It's got to be cool for them. Well, congratulations to homecoming king and queen, Elijah Ogambase, Michelle Tristan. We're pretty proud of your boy in there, homecoming king.
Yeah, we give him a hard time. Yeah, we give him a hard time.
Make him wear the crown at practice, perhaps? Or?
He had like 2 seconds in the locker room. He had to get it off quick.
We got a game to play, right? Well, speaking of homecoming, it was also Texas State's homecoming this past week, and we talk about local football and NFL. Packed house at Bobcat Stadium. They take on Jackson State, get that huge 77-34 victory. So 2-1 on the season. They're looking for that first bowl game in history. My question is, how does it affect the local Rattler athletics program to have that growing D1 college program in our town with us?
Yeah, it's just like anything. You can take the boys basketball team last year. The whole city fed off that, right? So anytime you have success in the athletic world, it breeds more success and it breeds excitement. And Texas State's been good at a lot of things with baseball and girls basketball last year and volleyball. But when football is special, you're talking about 28,000, 30,000 people in the stands, and that's generates a lot of energy. I drove through town, and it was pretty maroon out there, so I think it just creates great energy, and great energy permeates more energy.
Right, and I think that seeing weekends like we just had, where you have a packed house Friday night and a packed house Saturday night, that back-to-back piece, just the town behind their Rattlers and their Bobcats is just a really special thing.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
All right, well, let's take a look back at this past Friday night then, as the homecoming Friday Night Lights were on, and the Rattlers were taking on the Bulldogs of Laredo Alexander. Now, Coach, before we look at their highlights, it had to be a great not to have to drive all the way to Laredo this time, am I right?
Yeah, except we're going to Eagle Pass next week.
Except we got Eagle Pass coming up, exactly. Well, this game was exciting from bell to bell with 5 lead changes throughout the night. The Rattlers were able to build a 13-point lead, but Laredo kept fighting. But turnovers plagued both teams throughout this contest. The Rattlers grabbed back the lead after a turnover after a Tony Diaz 25-yard score as they went up 24-23. Laredo scores late with a big 68-yard run to go up 31-24, but the Rattlers had one final possession to tie it back up. Unfortunately, an interception seals it for the Bulldogs, and the Rattlers fall to Laredo Alexander 31-24. Now, Coach, before we break down the game a little further, what were some of your early takeaways from Friday night?
A lot of improvement. I think when you break the film down like we do, and you don't just watch it as a fan, I'll start with defensively. I could tell on the sideline that we were assignment sound. We were getting to the right spots, unlike previous to 3 weeks. And I think that's why we gave ourselves a shot earlier. And then offensively, we made some big plays. We can't turn the ball over. And,
right.
And we're still bitten by we're not running the ball well enough. We're not stopping the ball well enough. But what I was pleased with is in front of that big crowd, we were in a one-possession game at the end to win it, and we just didn't get it done. So now the next week we take that next step forward. Right.
And so speaking of that ending, it's something we all saw. I think there was even some confusion in the crowd. We see Tony Diaz, who quite frankly they didn't have an answer for all night. Gets a penalty for we're not even really sure what. And a lot of people in the crowd were kind of unsure why the flags were thrown. Next thing we know, Tony's removed, and that's a piece that you talk about a one-possession game. That makes a huge piece. Walk us through just that ending, what happened with the referees, what you heard from the officials, and what you've seen since you've gone back and looked.
Yeah, so I'd like to, let's dive into that. There's a good learning piece there too. But the officials were great all night long. I thought it was a good crew. So when they said he threw a punch over there on the sideline when they were skirmished, so we just took his word for it, But with Tony, there's nobody gonna have an answer for Tony. He's a college football player, and like for us, it changes everything. When Tony's split out wide, there's gonna be a corner 7 feet off him. There's gonna be a safety 10 feet away from that. We look for the isolations with Tony. And it opens up our run game. And then when you leave Tony one-on-one in those isolations, he's going to win. So it just changed the whole game. But the other kids battle. We had to, as soon as Tony went out, when he's the focus of your offense, we had to move pieces around. And then just the learning piece of that after the game, I put Tony in front of the team and said it was a selfish mistake, hurt the team. And what I love about him was he owned it. He texted me that night that he owned it. The next morning in meetings, he was in front of it. That's why I love athletics and football. And when you're winning and everything's going great, I'm not sure you learn as much as you don't when there's adversity. Was really proud of Tony. He's got to sit the first half, so we got a challenge without him. But he'll come back in the half and give us a burst of energy.
Right, and it's an opportunity. We talked his injury as being a big part of opportunity like that. No different than had he been injured in a game.
No doubt.
But those opportunities for those players to step up, and we talk a lot for across many sports on this show about the pre-district schedule and the district schedule.
Right.
And we're going to talk a lot about that coming up when we look at the Eagle Pass game later on in the game. The preparation is different. But this is an opportunity when a situation like that happens for others to step up and have that riding on them when it now.
Yeah, and then part of my reason why I brought Tony in front of the team was not just for Tony to learn a lesson, for everybody not to make the same mistake.
Now, you did talk about the struggles running the ball, but you also, and you talked to us now about the turnovers. So knowing that that's what's going on with the run game and with the turnover game, how do you address something like that? It's obviously a major piece. It's kind of a even cursory football knowledge. You got to do those things well. Yep. How do you address specifics like that?
So we changed practice up a little bit today. We just got out of it. That's why my forehead's sweating right now.
And we put you under the studio lights, which doesn't help.
But we got a little more physical. We put our offensive lineman versus the offensive lineman, big on big, and practice just a little bit harder than we've been practicing. And again, the film doesn't lie. Those kids are smart. All you got to do is play it, and they're embarrassed. So I anticipate it being a little bit better this week.
Very cool, very cool. And one quote you have with the Sailors Daily Record that I think some folks may not, again, if they didn't understand football deep enough, they might not understand the significance. But you talked about for the first time in your career, you only called 11 plays in that first half. So for those that may not understand the significance of that, explain why that was such a big deal.
Well, there's been probably 40 times where I've called 11 plays the first drive.
Right.
So just to do it was a weird. We went on a long drive and we killed most of the first quarter on our first drive, and then they were great on first down runs. So they would get 4 or 5 yards, and then worked a couple more downs to get a first down, and
makes the remaining 3.
Yeah. So the first quarter was over.
Second and 5 is a great place to be.
The first quarter was over in 25 minutes, and then we 3 and outed the second half. We 3 and outed the second series, and they used the rest of the quarter. It was a very unique half. Like again, I'd like to see many teams in the history of Texas high school football where you just call 11 plays.
Right. And to have something like that happen, you might think, well, maybe it was a blowout, or maybe you weren't.
Right.
This is a game we're into the very end in a
no
one-possession ball game.
Yep.
What was the team feeling like Saturday morning at practice, between the feeling of the Laredo game, but also having to look forward to Eagle Pass? How does Saturday look for them?
Great question. Because I'm going to bed at night thinking, all right, we're 0-4. Don't lose the team. Don't lose the players. Find out, the worst thing that I could have, when I walked in that team meeting at 9:30, the worst thing I could have saw was a bunch of laughing and giggling and really not caring how they felt the night before. But it was doom and gloom, and I just told them, 30 years from now, you're going to remember being 0-4 and embarrassed, and you still got to be there at 8:30 the next morning and figure out how to, right the ship. And we just had a good talk, and we showed a lot of good things they did. And man, they finished the day up Saturday great. Showed up Monday ready to work. So they're learning a lot. I mean, it's like I said, I've been in a lot of teams where you won and won big, and I'm not sure what you learned, but you just feel good all the time. Versus these kids are having to learn something right now, and the young coaches are having to learn something that are just new to this.
Right. Well, I think that a lot of the players that are on this team and have been with you now for multiple years, they've seen that we talk. That's why we talk so much about pre-district versus district. 0-4, sure, but we're 0-0
Right, no
where
doubt.
it counts.
No doubt.
And if we're learning and if we're progressing and we're fixing mistakes, this is right where 0-4 is weird, but that may be right where we need to be. And I think players are starting to understand that, which is great.
They will. Coaches got to paint the picture for them and give the purpose every day while they're doing it. And our coaches are doing a great job with that.
All right, well, we're going to talk a little bit more about football as we look ahead to the potential, or the matchup with the Eagle Pass Eagles, but we're going to head to break right now. When we return, we will be joined live in studio with players from the girls volleyball team alongside head volleyball coach Megan Allett. So we'll have that and much more. Keep it here on Rattler Up.
Wish you could see what's dripping down my body.
Hey, San Marcos, let's check out this week's Rattler recap. Now let's run it back.
Welcome back to Rattler Up, live from the Rattler broadcast studio here at San Marcos High School. So football has definitely ruled the headlines, but we know that there's plenty of other sports in session as well right now, including our girls volleyball team. So to discuss this season, we have Coach Megan Allett and several players from the team. Welcome into Rattler Up, ladies. Hi. All right, well, Coach, we'll meet the girls here in a minute, but we're gonna start with you and ask you. So we were 14-13 in the season so far, with one more game left before district tomorrow night at Johnson City. A lot of volleyball has been played, and I want to ask you about that. In the tournament play in that pre-district season, how important it is for you to, regardless win-loss, but just get games in? How important is it to have had 27 to 28 games in at this point in the season?
It helps drive a lot of the competition that we're having. Unfortunately, in some of that competition, we also lost 2 of our starters to some injuries. So right now that's a touchy subject, if I'm being honest. But it does help them learn to compete and see what pieces we need where, and get them going and learning to talk and communicate and highlight some of the issues or things that we need to work through so that we're ready to go come district.
And so I guess it's an opportunity then, like we were just talking about, when Tony Diaz goes out late in the game, is this an opportunity for some of your girls to step up now and take leadership positions that maybe they didn't have before?
Correct.
Awesome. Well, let's meet the ladies that are joining us here. So why don't you take turns with the mic, introduce yourselves, your name, what grade you're in, what position you play, and just something about yourself that we don't know here.
I'm Brinkley Reeves. I'm a junior, and I play outside hitter. Oh, she has one.
My name is Grace Paxnack. I'm also a junior, and I am a setter/libero.
Hi, I'm Kylie Joseph. I'm an outside hitter, and I'm a sophomore.
All right. So Kylie, we'll stay with you since you've got the mic there. What have been your takeaways so far on this season? You've been playing for a while. What's been really clicking? What have you liked about the Rattler volleyball team so far, 27 games into the season?
I think our energy, as a team together, we really click as a whole, and we just have a good spirit.
Mm-hmm. All right. What about you? What has been clicking for you? What have you been like the most about the team so far?
I really like how real we are with each other. We don't really hold anything back, and we all are kind of like a big family. And yeah, I like that.
All right. And same question for you, Brinkley.
So obviously we have had 2 injuries, and I think our team has done a good job about still competing and stuff, and everybody has worked hard in practice, and I just think our team has been working really hard,
All right, and so that work has been for quite some time, am I right? So how many of you play some club volleyball somewhere else as well? So there's really no off time for you ladies, is there? All right, well, Brinkley, we'll start with you. We know that district starts this Friday. We're going to travel to Schertz and take on Clemens. What has to happen this week for your team, do you feel like, to get everybody ready to go for district play?
I think pretty much everybody needs to lock in and practice. Like, we talk about that a lot, just how like it's really easy to not be focused and it's really easy to goof off. But I mean, Clemens is a really good team, and I think it is going to be hard with, obviously, like, Grace is hurt and another one of our players is hurt. But I do think that, like, we will be fine and we can execute, like, well. It's just everybody has to, like, focus and take it seriously and play with their hardest, because unless everybody plays their hardest, we're not going to be able to.
So, Grace, why don't we get the injury update from you? Tell us what happened, what caused the injury, where are we, and how soon do we get you back? That's what we want to know.
I was playing in the Raging Rattler tournament here at San Marcos, and I went up to block and landed on the other opponent's legs, so it just got a high ankle sprain. I've been out for 3 weeks.
Coach would say ever.
but we're working on it. Probably like next Tuesday. So
Okay.
Second game of district probably.
Okay, so you'll get in most of that district schedule
Yeah.
then. That's good. And you just said it for the coach, so it has to happen now. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So to get you, as we talk about district, what are some things in your opinion that have to happen for the team? What do you feel like the key has to be as you start up that district schedule?
Well, I think that we just need to like play as a team, not play for ourselves. I think when we're together on the same schedule, it works better. The flow is better, and we get out of bad situations faster, and it just, as a whole, is better.
All right. So, Coach, coming back to you, we know that we have starts on September 22nd, ends on October 24th. That's a quick month, right? 5 teams, 10 games. What is your primary focus for this team, getting them ready for that push to the playoffs?
Make sure that we can tackle the teams that we should tackle, bounce back from any setbacks that we have. If a team comes out and dominates us, take it and go. Right now, New Braunfels is looking really good. They've had a tough preseason playing some top teams in the state. And we can't overlook anybody in our district, but we also can't underlook anyone in our district. So it's just staying on top of it, keeping them all on the same page, and keeping everyone locked in and not falling back on old ways of doing things and pushing forward and just finding the comfort in being uncomfortable.
Awesome. So,
I got a question. Brinkley, you can answer this. When I walked in practice today, Coach Allette was mad. What was she mad about? What y'all do wrong?
So every day we tend to start off practice with just not a lot of movement on the court, and like she'll hit a ball over and nobody will go for it, and she'll say, "Oh, okay, one ball," and then she'll hit another one and
so
nobody
we didn't
will
start
go
right.
for it. Yes, and sometimes our team takes a little bit to click on what she's saying, and it takes us a little bit, and every once in a while it takes our team a little bit of running to get us to go. So he did, and fortunately
running, I left with that.
we were running. We
I'll
were
come
running
another
when he
time.
walked in. But yeah, every once in a while we have to do some sprints. But our team is usually pretty good about, as soon as we do those sprints, we're like, okay, we actually need to go. And most of the time, it works. It gets us there. So yeah.
We always have a moment of, oh, is she actually serious about us doing this? Yes.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. All right, well, so we invite people all the time. We're letting people know when the games are. We end every show of Rattler Up, letting them know people when the games are. Any one of you could take this one, but talk to us about the feel that you have when the crowd is packed. When you get the big house in the Snake Pit, does it make a difference? What kind of difference does it make? Do you feel it on the court when there's tons of people in the crowd cheering for you?
I could say it makes a huge difference. I feel like it gives you that energy and that like push that you need to keep going and keep playing and keep like fighting with your team.
Anybody else? What's it feel like when the house is packed?
It's just a great feeling. Like, I don't know, you just get all the love and support from like San Marcos, and it really like makes you play better and play for your team, play for your community.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, let me give you each, you got live mics here. We're on live television, so let's see if we give you each a chance to give you any shout outs. Anybody you want to send a shout out to out at home, go ahead and take your chance now to do that. I want to make sure you get that opportunity.
I guess my mom and dad.
Okay.
Shout out to my mom.
My parents and Coach Ollett here.
Oh, look
she
at that.
goes through a lot.
She was running sprints this morning, so she knew where the shout out needed to go today. That's great. All right, well, girls, thanks for joining us. Coach, thanks for joining us. Good luck tomorrow night in Johnson City, and of course, good luck as district play starts this Friday. Thanks for being on Rattler Up.
Thank you.
All right, well, as they shuffle on offset here, we appreciate having them, and again, remind you tomorrow night in Johnson City, as well as the opportunity this Friday in Shirts to go celebrate them. But again, 10 games, five at home, so you got 5 chances to come out. And you heard them say it. You can't let these girls down. They told you. They feed off your energy. Be in the snake pit and support these girls. All right, well, we're going to transition back to the gridiron then, Coach, as we talk about the Eagle Pass Eagles. That's where we're headed this Friday night. We talked about it on a couple of other shows with the Laredo trip, and we'll talk a little bit about that travel. Eagle Pass is definitely off to a good start, a 3-1 start on the season with victories over Wynn, Corpus Christi, Moody, and Edinburgh North. With their only loss coming in a 1-point game against Bernie Champion. So Eagle Pass is definitely having a good start to their season. What is your overall feel from the film you've seen and what you've seen about this Eagles team?
Yeah, real similar to Laredo, Alexander in a lot of respects. One, just their schemes are real similar, which played to our advantage because we saw when you see back-to-back same schemes, it makes practice and preparation a little bit easier. And then really the same kind of talent. I mean, I think it's going to be a similar game. Hopefully a one-possession game in the fourth quarter, and then our boys figure out to finish the game and win.
Right. And so when you talk about that, it's interesting from a strategy standpoint. When you talk about schemes, it's the final game of the pre-district schedule. We know that the ones that count are the district schedule.
Right.
How do you balance that? Because on the one hand, obviously, you're preparing to defeat the Eagle Pass Eagles. But at the same time, you're preparing a team to get ready for their 5-game district schedule, and you got to do things to get ready for that. How do you balance out beating that particular opponent that night and getting yourself ready for district?
Yeah, every year is different, every story is different, every team's different, and right now our team is about ourselves. There's some years you can be like, all right, we're going to save this, put this back, and wait for district. We need to go get a win. So we're pretty invested in this week and this week only, knowing we have an open week. So we'll have a 2-week preparation for our opener versus Shirts.
Right. Okay. So just knowing, go out there, take
care of ourselves.
Take care of yourselves, get that done. That's good. So we talk about reestablishing the running game. The Eagles seem to have not been giving up a whole lot of points. So you said very similar to Laredo. So this should be a good challenge to get that running game going again. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like Laredo, they stack the box. They make it hard to run the ball by putting everybody in there. That's why Tony had such a big night. So that's why it's going to be great to get Tony back at half. And really put them in some situations where they got to decide, do you want Tony to score a touchdown or are we just going to stop the run all night? So, but we've made some adjustments in the run game, I think, with the same set that should help us.
So without giving away too many secrets, in the first half, is it more of a replace Tony or is it a shift of play calling because there's no Tony or a little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. We've had the personnel. We got Fabian Castaneda, who's a dynamic player. We got Corbin Sebesta, who's a really good receiver for us. So they're going to split Tony's role the first half. But then again, we got to be smart, and when I say run the ball, we need to run the ball so we can make that half go by fast to get the kid back in.
Right. You could do another full drive for a first quarter like we had against Laredo. It would be a great time for that.
That would be a great time. 2 of them back to back.
Right. Does that do anything to the coin toss?
Yes.
You want to receive the ball to start?
Absolutely.
Let's get the ball and get going. So there may be a similar answer, but people may not have watched previous seasons, and if they hadn't, shame on them. But here in season 3, now this is our road trip. We've talked about Laredo, so share again what you do on a Friday, knowing you have such a long trip to make with these boys to keep them focused. Just the physical health of sitting on the bus that long and getting ready for a ball game.
So it is a long trip, and I always kind of laugh at the long trips because my first 10 years, every trip we made was 2.5 hours at least. We were in Brownwood and we were going to the Metroplex. We were in there with Alito and Crowley. So for us to go on a 3-hour trip, it seems like it's out of our comfort zone, but it's kind of normal for West Texas teams to do that. So I've lived
our district games were 2.5 hours.
Right,
away,
I've lived that life, so that doesn't really faze me. But the focus, honestly, other than playing in front of the San Marcos crowd at Toyota Rattler Stadium, you can't beat that. Other than that, you have more focus on the road. You get them away from school, you get them away from their girlfriends, you get them away from any distraction. You get on a bus and we isolate them at a church. We have our pregame routine. We get to the stadium and we're together the whole time. So you actually have more focus on the road.
Interesting. Well, that's going to be this Friday night, and we need the Rattler fans there, just like we talked about the volleyball girls. It's the same, especially on the road. When you get that big contingent on the road of Rattler fans cheering, and you're hearing your folks up against their home folks, that's huge. So this Friday night, as we always say, Coach will write you an excuse for work. If you have to leave early and make that drive down there to support the Rattlers. Well, that's going to do it this week for Rattler Up. We're glad to be able to talk football and volleyball this week. Lots more going on, and we'll keep you updated as episodes continue with Rattler Up here on Monday nights. But before we go, let's give you a look at what's headed your way in the week ahead. Of course, tomorrow night, the Rattler tennis team is taking on New Braunfels. Also tomorrow night, as we heard earlier, the Lady Rattler volleyball team will be at Johnson City in their final pre-district matchup of the season. District starts for them this Friday night as they travel to Schertz, take on Clemens at 7 o'clock. Tennis is also in action Friday night against Weiss. Cross country heads out to McNeil Saturday for the Hoka McNeil Invitational. And of course, the Rattler football team makes that long drive to Eagle Pass Friday night to take on the Eagles. Make your way there and join us. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. All right, well, Coach, last time we talked, we know the Cowboys are always making me a pessimist, but 2-0 start to the season, beating the Jets and the Giants have me feeling a little bit better about the Cowboys. They're going to go all the way and win the Super Bowl now, right?
Well, they swept the state of New York, so why not?
Right, we've at least beaten New York, given up 10 points in 2 games. Is this one of the top defenses in the league right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't got to watch a lot of NFL because we work on Sundays, but watching the highlights and looking at the stats, they're pretty impressive.
That's awesome. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week on Rattler Up. We want to always make sure to thank Jack Moore and Josh Waklizik for guiding the CT audio video department, and thanks to the incredible student directors for behind the scenes for making the show go. For Coach Walsh, I'm CJ Odam. As always, thanks for watching Rattler Up.